It began with a man and a toothbrush. No luggage, no clear identity, no future. On January 2nd, 1935, a quiet guest checked into Kansas City President Hotel under the name Roland T. Owen. 3 days later, he would be dead, stabbed, strangled, and beaten inside a locked hotel room. And nearly a century later, we still don't know who killed him, or who he really was. This is the story of Room 1046, a true crime mystery that refuses to be forgotten. On January 2nd, 1935, at 1:20 p.m., a tall, dark-haired, lone man checked into the President Hotel in downtown Kansas City, carrying only a comb and a toothbrush. He requested an interior room on a high floor, and the front desk handed him the key to room 1046. He complained to the bellboy, Randolph Prost, about the outrageous prices of a neighboring hotel. After checking in and receiving his room, which was on the 10th floor, he left the hotel, only to be seen intermittently throughout the stay. The other man's behavior struck the President Hotel staff as odd. They didn't think much of him. After all, the hotel often played host to out-of-towners and businessmen looking for some late-night company, and the less the staff got involved, the better. The staff wouldn't give his behavior another thought until days later, when the man turned up dead in his hotel room, a brutal bloodbath. As they described to police the brutal scene, questions arose about the man's behavior prior to his death, bringing to light just how strange that behavior had been. The man signed in as Ronald T. Owen, but, as you'll soon discover, that wasn't his real name. Housekeeper Mary Soptic had the first of several unsettling interactions with Owen. The same day that Roland T. Owen checked in, Mary stopped by to clean his room. It was around noon, and most of the hotel residents were out for the day. Upon reaching Owen's room, Mary found the door to be locked from the inside. She knocked, and Owen opened the door. After insisting she could come back later, Mary eventually entered. When she entered his room, she found the room in almost complete darkness, with the shades drawn and only a small lamp lit. Owen sat silently, seemingly uncomfortable in the light. He told her someone would be visiting soon and requested that she not lock the door. She agreed, and Owen left the room. 4 hours later, he returned with fresh towels. She found the door still unlocked from when she had cleaned the room that afternoon, and upon entering, she found him lying fully clothed on top of his still-made bed, seemingly asleep. A note on the bedside table read, quote, "Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait," end quote. The next morning, January 3rd, she stopped by to make the beds and found Owen's door to be locked from the outside, as it would be when patrons left. Assuming Owen was not inside, she opened the door with the master key. To her surprise, she found Owen sitting in the dark in the chair in the corner of the room with the phone ringing. Owen picked up. "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I just had breakfast." After a moment, he repeated, "No, I am not hungry." By now, things didn't just feel strange. They felt wrong. After he hung up, Owen began asking Soptic about her job in the hotel. The first time he had ever really spoken to her. He asked her about how many rooms she was in charge of, what kind of people lived in the President Hotel, if any, and again complained about the price of neighboring hotel. Soptic answered, finished cleaning, and left Owen alone. It was only after she left that she realized that since the door had been locked from the outside, someone had to have locked Owen in his room. Later that day, Mary returned with towels and heard multiple voices inside the room. When she announced herself, a deep voice barked, "We don't need any towels." Knowing she removed all towels earlier, Mary left quietly. Who was the second person? That same afternoon, the President Hotel got 2 more guests, whose presence would contribute greatly to the mystery of what happened to Roland T. Owen, 1046. The first was Jean Owen, of no relation to Roland. She had come to Kansas City to meet her boyfriend for the day and decided that rather than drive all the way back to her hometown on the outskirts of the city, she would stay the night in a hotel. Upon checking into the President Hotel, Jean Owen was given the room key. Jean Owen was given the room key to room 1048, right next door to Roland. That night, according to police statements, she heard a repeated commotion. She, quote, heard a lot of noise which sounded like it was on the same floor and consistent largely of men and women talking loudly and cursing, end quote. She said in her statement, quote, "When the noise continued, I was about to call the desk clerk, but decided not to," end quote. The other hotel guest was not quite a guest. The bellhop who had been on duty that night described her as a quote-unquote commercial woman who often frequented the rooms of the hotel's male patrons late at night. On the evening of January 3rd, she came into the hotel searching for a man in room 1026. However, despite being a quote-unquote very prompt customer, the woman couldn't seem to find the man she was looking for. After searching for well over an hour on multiple floors, she gave up and went home. Both of the women's statements would raise more questions about the fate of the man in room 1046. On the morning of January 4th, the phone in room 1046 was off the hook. When Randolph Prosp arrived at the door, he noticed a "Don't Disturb" sign on the handle. He knocked, and from behind the locked door a weak voice said, "Come in," but the door was locked. Prosp left. An hour later, the phone was still off the hook. This time, he used the master key to enter. He knocked, and after hearing no response, he entered the room. What he saw made him seek his assistant manager. He found Owen lying on the bed. One article said that he was found slumped forward on the edge of the bathtub, naked and covered in blood. The room was a horror scene. The man had been stabbed multiple times in the chest, stomach, and legs, with his wrist slashed and the back of his head bludgeoned. A rope was tied around his neck, indicating an attempted strangulation. After police arrived, they asked the barely conscious Owen who had done this to them. "Nobody," he said. Doctors and detectives observed that Owen had been tortured viciously. His arms, legs, and neck had been restrained by some kind of cord, and his chest sustained multiple stab wounds. He also suffered a punctured lung and a fractured skull. Though he was taken to a hospital, Roland T. Owen was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly after arriving. In the early hours of January 5th, 1935, the doctors would also ascertain that the wounds on Owen had been inflicted well before the bellhop's first trip to his room that morning. They believed that he had attempted to call for help multiple times, but hadn't been able to make it further than picking up the phone due to his injuries. When the police were looking for evidence in the hotel room, they found a woman's fingerprint on one of the glasses in the room, but it led nowhere. There was no such record of any man living anywhere in the United States, and they implored the public to come forward with any information they had about the mysterious murder victim. The neighboring hotel that Owen had complained so much got in contact, claiming that a man matching the description had stayed at the hotel on January 1st. He had checked in under the name Eugene K. Scott. Upon further investigation, the police reached the same dead end they had with Roland T. Owen. No man named Eugene K. Scott had any record of it ever existing. Over the next couple months, various people identified the body as a loved one. Though none of the identifications stuck, the case ran cold, and the detectives decided to burn the body. Finally, a woman named Ruby Ogletree from Alabama recognized him in a newspaper photo. She confirmed that he was her son, Artemus Ogletree, who had left home in 1934 to travel. He was just 19 years old. The scar above his ear, caused by a childhood accident with hot grease, confirmed his identity. Even after his death, the mystery deepened. A funeral home received an anonymous call from a woman who would not give her name, but did say she would be sending funds for Owen to have a proper burial. They received an envelope a few days later containing money wrapped in newspaper. As they arranged for a small funeral, a bouquet of flowers showed up at the funeral home with a letter that read only, quote, "Love forever, Lucille," end quote. One article put that Lucille was actually Lucy. Who paid for his burial? Who was Dawn? Who was Lucille or Louise? And why was Artemus tortured and killed? Many theories have surfaced over the years: a love triangle, a mob hit, blackmail, mistaken identity. Some believe Artemus may have been involved in criminal dealings. Others say he was just a young man in the wrong place at the wrong time. The fingerprints were never matched. No one was charged. The case remains open, revisited occasionally by detectives and true crime enthusiasts alike. Almost 90 years later, the walls of room 1046 no longer exist, but the questions remain. Why was Artemis Awuchi killed? And who were the shadowy figures in and out of that room? Sometimes the scariest stories aren't those made up around a campfire. They're the ones we still can't explain. If you found this story haunting and compelling, please like, share, subscribe, and remember, not every hotel guest checks out.